Every day, the news brings more and more images of random violence, torture, and sexual aggression right into our living rooms. Violence and violent images permeate more and more aspects of our lives. And I think it's time to draw the line. I know that one place parents want us to draw the line is with violence in video games. The fact is that a new generation of video games crosses that line, containing the most horrible depictions of graphic violence and sex, including particularly violence against women. Like the Grinch who stole Christmas, these violent video games threaten to rob this particular holiday season of a spirit of goodwill. Instead of enriching a child's mind, these games teach a child to enjoy inflicting torture.
Well, here we go again. Let me tell you, it is not a day. I have to laugh. I'm 55 years old, okay? When gaming got really into it, you saw people just start to attack it as far as a point of view of that it promotes violence, sexism, racism. I mean, there are all these people that put out these scientific articles that they throw out these numbers, but when other people delve into them, it shows that there isn't proof of this. You know, did you sit down with these people and talk with them on there? You know, they always say, oh, we talked with this small group. Yeah, but, you know, how many people are there in the world? You know, and how many of them are gamers? You know, a lot. There's a lot of people on there from many different countries, many different worlds on there. To start to, you know, signal, I mean, the 90s was a crazy period when it came to subcommittee hearings. And the thing about it is, you know, we had the elections come and go. By the time, you know, we record this prior, hopefully you've gone out to vote. You know, that's very important on there. But the thing about it is, the same people that were crying about this in the 90s, those politicians screaming on there, the ones that are still alive are still here today. They're still in their positions and still doing the same thing. Are there crazy games out there? Of course it is. It's like, games are like stories. Okay? And I've always said, when it comes to video games and younger children, it's the parents' responsibility knowing what they're buying for their kids. If they want to buy Call of Duty for their child, that's the problem of the parent. Parents know on it because half the parents play with their kids, the ones that do play with their kids on there. And they tell you, oh, these violent video games, everything that's out, you know, this is, you know, it's ruining our people, it's stuff like that. And now another research paper has been released through, at least Frontiers on there. The New York Post has on it an article on it. But before we start, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share. Thank you once again for those who've even commented on there. We're just about to hit that, or we've already hit 600. Thank you again. Thank you very much. Well, let's really dive into this. From the New York Post, people who identify as gamers are more likely to be racist and sexist. A new study reveals that people who identify as gamers are more likely to exhibit extreme behaviors such as racism and sexism. While toxicity and radicalization has long been associated with gaming, no it hasn't, culture, the study released last week by Take This, a nonprofit medical health organization working with the gaming industry and community, showing how just easily gamers identify can take over a person's life, where it can lead. When the gamer identifies is core to you who are a person that seems to reflect that we are called toxic gamer culture, tends to reflect more exclusion than inclusion. So things like racism and sexism, misogyny, research director Dr. Rachel Coward told Vice Media. If you look up her, I mean, a lot of the stuff that she talks about is just really, really ridiculous. This is the same rhetoric that's come out. And, you know, there are other research papers that come out that totally just debunks stuff like this. All of these things we know exist in gaming spaces seem to be internalized by those who are very closely identified as being part of the community, Coward said. In 2019, it was revealed by the Anti-Defamation League that 1 in 10 gamers between the ages of 13 and 7 has been exposed to white supremacy ideology. See what I mean? According to the ADL research, far-right extremists use gaming communities as hunting grounds. Communities such as Steam and Discord are allegedly popular with white supremacists. How do you know that? How do you know their ideology? Take this, the study which examined the attitudes of more than 300 video gamers, looked closely at the pros and cons of life inside these communities. Gamer communities represent a double-edged sword, the study noted. On the one hand, they may provide a sense of connection and purpose for individuals who suffer from loneliness and insecurity. On the other hand, they may expose gamers to a hateful speech. Again, Supreme Court, no such thing as hate speech. And social toxicity that increase the susceptibility to extreme propaganda. What propaganda are you talking about? That's so funny. In the worst case scenario, gamers may be lured and embrace extremist beliefs lead to take them down to the path of radicalization, research concluded. The definition of a gamer has been a subject of a heated and sometimes toxic debate. For some, the term applies to those who play video games on PC, while others means people who play competitive multiplayer games. Kowat says the issues begin to rise when the gamer starts to merge their normal identity and gamer one process called identity fusion. We have individual identities, social identities. So am I, Rachel. I am a female, I am a gamer, and I love The Witcher. These are my social identities and are separate, said Coward. Identity fusion is when social identity, the individual identity fuses together and you can't tear them apart. This is the way in which fusion is shown to develop makes more susceptible to be extreme behavior, she said. The study found that players of Call of Duty were most likely to be racist and misogynist than those who played Minecraft. Wow, I like to know where they got that idea. This could across communities depend on what kind of people that you're spending a lot of your time, said Coda. I don't think it's necessarily about the content, but the community in which you're being immersed. Coerce also advised not to read too heavily into the study, saying that the topic of video games have long been sensitized by the media, that she worries the research will be taken out of context. It already has. This is what you've mentioned. I think games are a wonderful place to have positive things and often negative things across the board, she said. See, this is the thing. They said, well, no, don't take it as a grain of salt, but yeah, we're going to call them racist and sexist. It's funny, and it's really, really funny on that. Now, here's where the funny part of the whole situation. Now, let's delve into what are the top 10 selling video games right now currently. This is up to September of this year. Right now, currently, in the top 10, FIFA 23, Madden NFL 23, NBA 2K 23, Splatoon, Last of Us Part 1, still selling pretty good, I'm surprised. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection, Satan's Row, JoJo Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle, Elden Ring, and Mario Kart 8. Call of Duty is not listed up there, even though Call of Duty is selling on the average, but it's, you know, it's not being played as much. And this has been happening for many years now. They say, well, the violent games are up on top. The violent games are always so. But when you delve into the actual numbers, sports games are still in top line. Kids games are still on top line. There's some stuff in between that is selling. The new game of the week on there. You might get like a Cyberpunk, like on PC. I think Cyberpunk is running #1 right now on Steam currently. But still, some sports are in there as well, and some kids stuff. See, it's a variation. Now, when you hear, and the thing about it, this is why I don't use my headphones too often and talk like I used to. You got some kids out there, and a lot of them fatherless homes. They're going to sit there and curse, and you see this online, and it has nothing to do with the video games. It has to do with the upbringing, okay? And it has nothing to do with racism or anything of that nature. These kids, they hear their parent yelling, screaming, people around them saying, F you, this, and that. Of course, it's going to embrace into the kid. And, you hear these situations, and I say, are they racist out there? Yeah. Racists do play video games, white supremacists do video games, but, and they said, well, white supremacists, they're trying to take over. Trust me on that. White supremacists are not sitting there saying like, oh, we're going to take over your kids by playing video games. They're not as big as they used to be. Yes, there are white supremacists in the world. Are they a major threat? Depends on what direction you're looking at. If you're saying like the old KKK, stuff like that, no, not like it used to be. If you're talking Antifa, Black Bloc, yes, major problem. But we're talking from not a supremacy, but we're talking from a fascist socialist look. Not racism, but fascist socialist, which is something a much more difference on there. Now, sexism. Once again, if parents are buying something like Cyberpunk or a lot of other videos that, hey, listen, The Witcher shows nudity, Cyberpunk shows nudity, and many other video games of that nature. There's a reason why it says mature on the cover on there. If the parents are buying it, they're leading their kids into that situation. And I said this on the Madman Cafe on an article. Parents need to sit with their children and take a little time to see what their interests are. Find out what they're doing, what they're doing online. It's not interfering with them. It's basically you're taking an interest in their lives. Buying them that video. If you're buying a Mario Kart, that's okay. You know what's in Mario Kart. But if you're buying something toward like The Last of Us or Cyberpunk, you're looking at situations where you got to talk with your kid. It's like, this is not appropriate for you right now. These games are not going to go away. There are people playing, and I have to laugh. People are playing games all the way back to the old Sierra. There's been a second renaissance of games from that era. The what is it they call it? The floppy disk and the hard disk are freaking. They're back in. There are companies now that are using these disks once again, because there is still technology out there that have not changed. For example, the airline industry. Those planes are over 25 years old, and they still, to get information in and out of them, you still have to use floppies. Some of the newer planes that come out, yeah, they've changed it. But a lot that are in our fleets right now still use older technology. I've worked in companies where basically in the front end, they got the Windows 10. In the back end, they're still all the way back down to the original Windows XP, or even lower than that. I've seen companies that are still using dot pitch matrix software because they created it themselves and they don't want to be connected to the outside. That's why, some companies can, don't get hacked as easily as you think it is, because the technology is a lot older, and what it is, it can be programmed much better, even though some people do get into them every once in a blue, but not as often as some of the newer stuff that's out there. But like I said, this is another round of, let's bang on the freaking the gaming industry, or let's bang on the music industry, or anime, or something like that, to just basically tell you, well, there are dangers in there. It's gaming. I'm waiting for the board game ones to come out again. They say, like, they were talking about orcs. Orcs are racist. Orcs are imaginary, creatures. They don't exist. They're not based on anyone. Well, they're black. Okay, they're black, but that doesn't mean it's referring to Africans or anyone of the black color. They're just dark. They're dark skinned. Hispanics can be dark skinned as well. Muslims can be dark. So anyone from the Middle East are dark skinned as well. The stupidity of people, they don't think before they put their foot in their mouth. They sit there, do research paper after research paper. Every time one study like this comes out, 10 other studies come out right behind it debunking this. The violence in video games. Kids are more, when they're playing video games, become more focused. If you haven't realized that yet. A lot of these games, when you see the kids, like, they're just playing it, they're jumping and hitting and whatever. They get a focus out of this whole situation. In a way, it does help. A lot of educated scholars saying that basically their eye-hand coordination improves because they play video games in some of these studies. Other studies, they say, well, that's some aggressive behavior, but that's basically a kid being a kid. Kids are always going to be aggressive in many ways. It's not only the video game. There was a time before video games, kids were aggressive. And that's because they play, they run around, jump, hop, skip. They have a lot of energy. Let the kids be kids. Now, like I said, there are kids out there that are going to sit there and curse on the video games and stuff like that. But, parents got to jump on that. And you've seen the videos where the parents walked in while they're saying some of this stuff. And the parents are, and that's the way it's supposed to. You yell at the child that they're doing this. And then, yes, you do have the problematic people. It's a small amount of people that are out there, the gaming, like the guys who swap people because they lost their game and stuff like that, and basically they, when they cause problems like this, they need to be arrested and go to jail. And we've had situations like this because we had someone die because of a swatting, over a dollar bet, some stupid dollar bet. But the thing about it is, what's the old saying? The evil that men do. There are people out there that will do evil no matter what. Video games is not the cause. Their cause and effect is because of who they are, how they're raised, what's going on with them. They could be sick, and anything could trigger them off. A rainstorm can trigger them off. Someone bumping into it, and we've seen this on TV where someone bumps into somebody and they end up punching them. We've seen this happen. People get triggered off by littlest things, but that is not the video games. It's not the TV. It's not the music. It is a issue mentally within them, and it has to be resolved that way. We spend too much time blaming things, and we should be blaming ourselves. What have we done wrong in our lives that basically have gotten us to this level? And that's what you got to ask yourself. Have I done enough for my child? Have I sat there with my child on a daily, see what is he reading? How's his homework? How, what video games he's playing? What TV shows he's watching? What comic books is he buying? Who are his friends? This is being a parent. We're seeing this now again. We see the school town halls where finally the parents have gotten up and said, I don't want this in my classroom. And it has nothing to do with racism. Children need, to grow up and thrive naturally as they always been for generations. The nuclear family is the right way to go. No matter what anyone will tell you, a father, a mother, and children work properly. This is why we are where we are right now, because people want to get rid of the nuclear family. That's the one thing about these research studies. They don't do research on the families themselves, just the child alone or the gamer alone. They don't talk about their background, what's going on in their lives. Are they bullied? Are they not? Or are they the bully? These are the things that have to be discussed. It's like we just saw the Parkland shooter this past week. It was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. And people are saying, oh, they blame the guns. But see, the thing about it is, the evidence was there prior to the shooting. This kid was on the radar. He was a troubled kid. It should have been taken care of a long time ago, but they just literally brushed it, under the rug, and, this is what we got. This is what happens when we don't pay attention to our children. This is the worst thing, when we don't pay attention to them. So let me know in the comments how you feel about this. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye now.